Wednesday, everyone. Super excited. Hope you've had a really good week, super prosperous and productive. Today, we are talking about dispo strategies, one of my favorite topics to talk about. So, one of the things that I found that has worked really well is working in your dispo from a perspective of what is the greatest leverage, right? So what that might look like is what's the highest likelihood that a certain group of customers would buy your property. And so uh, I take a look at what is going to be the fastest buying group, or who has the highest interest in buying this particular property. So anytime I'm taking a look at a property, the very first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to scope out the neighbors. So once I get a property under contract, if I already don't have a builder or a buyer in place, then I know that I have to start shopping it and start using some of these dispo strategies. Then what I'll actually do is I will contact the neighbors. So what that might look like is I will pull the list of the neighbors that have lots that are touching the property that I'm looking to sell, and I'll pull a list of those people either using some type of like mapping software, like we use Land ID, formerly MapRight, to do that. And so I'll get the neighbor's information, and then I'll just do like a quick skip trace. TruePeopleSearch.com is free to be able to do that. Get their contact information, just give them a ring and say, hey, listen, I just recently acquired this property. I realize that it's touching your property. You're my neighbor. Hi, neighbor. Looking to see if you might be interested in actually buying that property to make your lot bigger, right? There's a lot of reasons why buyers might want to buy a neighboring property. So it might be that they want to have kind of like a buffer where no one can build next to them. And the best way to do that is by owning that particular property. And so that works really well, especially with landlocked properties. Not that someone might want to build on that property, and then they're trying to block it, but maybe they just want to, increase the footprint of their property. They want a larger property. Maybe they want to build an addition, or they want to do, add other structures. So there's a lot of reasons why neighbors might want that adjoining property. Also, I'll once I do that, and the immediate neighbors, if they don't want the property, then I'll also pull the entire neighborhood, or like the surrounding areas that's very close to that specific property. It doesn't necessarily have to be touching the subject property, but if they have property in that area, especially if they live in that area, I'm going to want to know who those people are so I can contact them and say, hey, listen, I have this property. I realize that you live in the area, looking to see if you might be interested in buying, right? There are a lot of people, especially some of the older generation, like to buy properties nearby. That way, maybe a child, like their kid or their grandkid, could maybe one day, live on that property next to them, and so they can kind of start piecing together some family, some family centers in different neighborhoods and areas. So I'll do that, and we have a pretty high response to that. So anytime we're looking to dispo a property, the very first thing that we're going to do is we're going to reach out to the neighbors. You can also, if you don't want to call the neighbors, or if you don't have the time to do it, you can also just send neighbor letters. So you can pull the same information, pull those adjoining neighbors, pull the entire neighborhood in the area, or like in the immediate area, and you don't even need to skip trace like for phone numbers. You can actually just get the owner's mailing information, and then send them a letter that says the same thing. Hi, neighbor, just wanted to introduce myself, let you know that I just acquired this property, and looking to see if you might be interested in buying it before I put it on the MLS. I always like to say that, like, I wanted to give you a shot at getting the property before I actually list it, and see if you would be interested in it. So it looks like I'm doing them a favor by checking to see if they might want it, and also builds in some urgency to say, hey, I'm going to post this, I'm going to list this, but I wanted to give you first crack at it. So let's see, we have a question that came in says, when do you like to start the dispo process in calling the neighboring properties? That's a really good question. So I will typically do that the minute that I get the property under contract. I want to start that dispo process. I don't wait for clear title. I don't do anything like that because I'm just trying to generate some interest in the property. Sometimes even, let's say it might be like a landlocked property that I see that there are some neighbors nearby that have properties that are adjoining that property. Some people like to just completely throw out landlocked properties. Before I do that, sometimes I like to just contact the neighbors and see if that would be something that they would be interested in, is this particular property. And that's before I've even gotten it under contract. That also is kind of like I guess you could call it like a reverse marketing strategy, where I find out how much those people would be willing to pay for that property. And then that will tell me how much I can actually offer to the seller. So I kind of reverse engineer my offers that way, because I know that those would be the only people that would buy that property, those people that are touching the landlocked lots. And so they kind of dictate the price. If they say, yeah, the property is I'm only going to pay $20,000 for it, then we know that's all we're going to get for it. It's not like we can post it on the MLS and then get higher for it. All right, someone says, perfect, thank you. Do you ever have issues with the neighbors contacting the owners? Yes, I do have issues with that sometimes. So especially if the neighbor knows the owner, they'll say, hey, I thought that you own this property. What's going on with that? So I do have, that is a possibility that has happened more than once. But I also make sure that I talk with the sellers and I'm very transparent. And I say, hey, listen, we're going to get this transaction done. We're going to get you your agreed price, but I just want to make sure that we're doing all of our due diligence. And part of that is also doing market research. So that might mean that I'm reaching out to your neighbors. I'm putting out signs. I'm putting this on Facebook Marketplace. I might put it on the MLS. It's all written into our purchase agreement. And so it's very straightforward. So that way, the owners aren't saying like, well, wait a minute, I thought you were buying the property and I had a neighbor contacting me saying that you were trying to sell it to them. Like what's happening with that? So so I find that being super transparent up front and letting them know like we're going to do everything that we possibly can to get this sold for you and get you this price that we agreed to. They typically are good with that. So really good question. Any other questions about that process? So neighbors are a really big thing. You can send, like I said, do neighbor calls. You can send neighbor letters. Sometimes in the neighbor letter, I'll actually include a snapshot of the map with their property, like with the property that I have that I'm looking to sell, highlighted or something like that, bolded or having some type of border around it so they can see where the property is in relationship to theirs, especially if it's a neighbor that I'm contacting that doesn't have an adjoining property. So if they're just like in the area, I want them to know exactly where that property is. So we'll include that in there. But neighbors are the very first people that I reach out to. I actually have like a hierarchy of buyers that I'll use. So the very first people are neighbors. I'm going to shop that to them first. The next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to reach out to my VIP buyers. These are buyers that have bought from me before, that I've done business with before. We've had successful transactions. I know that fits their buying criteria. I'll reach out to them and see if they're interested, if the neighbors say no. And then if the VIP buyers say no, then I'm going to reach out to my VIP agents. These are the agents that I've done business with in that particular area already. And I'm going to say, hey, listen, I have a deal. Looking to see if you might have a buyer. I'm willing to pay you 3% commission if you can bring me a buyer. I have not listed this on the MLS yet. And so this will be kind of like a pocket listing for you, and agents love that kind of thing. And so VIP agents, they get a crack at it. If they say no, then the next step is I'll just list them on the full market. All right, question. Have you seen bandit signs working in this process, or is calling better? Actually, both. So you would be surprised at the number of people that will call a bandit sign, right? And so sometimes if you can't get them on the phone, they may see the bandit sign as they're coming into the neighborhood and they're like, oh, I wanted to buy property in this neighborhood forever and just didn't know that anything was actively for sale. And so they'll call and say, hey, I saw your sign. I'm interested in buying. So I don't put signs just on the property. I'll also put signs around the neighborhood. That way it attracts everyone that's in that neighborhood that's driving by. So intersections, things like that. So bandit signs, yes, they absolutely work. You would be surprised. Hope that answers your question. Any other questions about that while we are talking all about dispo? Any questions at all? So, I think that one of the things that's really important when dealing with any type of your sales process is recognizing that you have to be as aggressive in your sales process as you are in your acquisitions process. I see a lot of people like they're super hungry and they're really great with follow-ups and getting those properties under contract and acquiring those properties. But once they get the deal, then they just like post it on marketplace and then just like wait and pray kind of thing, right? I think that it's really important to be proactive in your dispo process, just as proactive as you are in your acquisitions process. You have to be that proactive and aggressive in your dispo process. So anytime someone calls me and or it's calling to inquire about a property and say, hey, I'm interested in this, and asking questions, they are now on my follow-up list for my dispo process. So I'm going to follow up with that potential buyer and say, hey, did you get a chance to go take a look at the property? Did you get a chance to, look up whatever you needed to look up? Did you get a chance to follow up on what we talked about? Would you like to make an offer? That type of thing. So I will definitely be pretty aggressive in my dispo process as well. All right, another question. When using VAs for the dispo process, is there any tips you could recommend for us? So when using VAs for the dispo process, any tips you could recommend? Yeah, so I think when you are, just like anything, I think that you have to have a very clear process and a clear set of standard operating procedures, your SOPs outlined for your dispo process. So just like you'd have a clear set of SOPs for acquisitions, clear set of SOPs for your dispo process. So in dealing with VAs, like my VAs will do all of my follow-up for the dispo. So as as those potential buyers are calling in to ask information about that property, calling into our dispo number, I have virtual assistants that are answering that phone. So the virtual assistants are actually interfacing with the potential buyers. The other thing is that I like to make sure that all of my information, my due diligence that I've done, all of the information about that property, the zoning, the size, the location, all of those things are in a neat, clean due diligence checklist. It's a spreadsheet that every single deal has. That way they can just literally pull it up and answer any questions that the potential buyer might have. Another tip that I like to do, and I recently started doing this, is that we will create a pin in Google Maps for every listing or every property that we have. And then when people call in and say, well, how can I get to the property? We get that question a lot, and it's very difficult if you don't know where the people are. And so my virtual assistant can literally just text them that link, that pin, and that will open up in their Google Maps, and then they can just navigate to it without us having to try to explain on the phone, turn right here, go down to this street, go past the old lady with one eye and selling nuts for squirrels or whatever it is. Like, you can just go directly to that pin. And so that helps a lot. So the VAs have to understand where that information is, how to be able to quickly get that and answer questions for the potential buyer. Also, I train all of my dispo agents on how to read and interpret the commitment, the title commitment, so they can look for deed restrictions and that type of thing. So they can answer questions about zoning, what's allowed, are mobile homes allowed on the properties, things like that. So just making sure that you give your virtual assistants the tools and the resources to be able to answer all of the questions for any potential buyer that may call. And of course, just have a follow-up cadence for them as well when they're calling to follow up on those buyer leads. So hope that helps. Next question. Let's see. List of websites, paid and free, you use to list your deals. Yeah, it's a really good question. So I've experimented with a lot of things. The types of deals that I usually do, um, we do list on Facebook Marketplace, and we'll boost the ad on Facebook Marketplace, so we get a lot of traction that way. We also will post it on the MLS, so that's a big one. That MLS will push it to lots of other different websites. So you list something on the MLS, that's pushing it to Zillow, Redfin, Realtor.com, all of those sort of marketplace property sites. So I really like listing on the MLS if we're going to list, because you kind of kill like 101 birds with one stone. So those are the two big ones that we do: Facebook Marketplace and the MLS. All right, next question is, what do you put on your signs on the property? So really, it's very simple. It's a bandit sign that literally says "lot for sale" with a phone number. Like it's just handwritten. It's not printed. It's just handwritten. That looks, super homemade. I mean, it's not ugly or anything, but it's also doesn't look super professional, But it just says "lot for sale" and the phone number. What we found is that has a really high response rate because people feel like they're dealing directly with the owner, right? So like they're not dealing with a big company, they're not dealing with a realtor, it's just an owner that's trying to sell the property. And so that makes them feel a little bit more accessible, and that they can actually like strike a deal with that person. So feels a little bit more mom and pop, and we get a good response that way. And I also like doing my bandit signs, yellow plain bandit signs with an H stake, corrugated plastic, and then marker handwritten marker. All right, let's see. Next question is, what's a good flat fee MLS website to use? Or do you partner with a realtor to list on the MLS? Yeah, so right now we've been doing, if we're doing assignments, we will do, and we list on the MLS, we'll do a flat fee MLS. So we've used a few different ones. Right now we're using Baycomb, and I have had good experience with Baycomb. And so that's what we're using right now, is Baycomb. You just pay the flat fee, and I think it's like 99 bucks. They'll list it, and we also make sure that we put our contact information. So it's my dispo phone number and my dispo agent's email address. So I think Baycomb has something where you have to submit an offer directly to Baycomb, but in our listings, they also have that any offers or inquiries must also go to our email address, or if you want to ask questions, here's the dispo phone number, and that goes directly to my team. So that's how it works. We pay 99 bucks. They list it for us. We do all of the inbound call answering and all that good stuff, processing, and when it closes, we don't pay anything else. It's just 99 bucks flat fee. There's no commission or anything. All right. Next question is, who do you find to get those signs on the properties? Yeah, that's a really good question. So, we have had lots of different types of boots on the ground. I'll find partners that are in that area to just go out and put the signs. You can, I know some people that have done where you find someone to do it off of Fiverr or Upwork or something, where they say, hey, I'm going to get you these signs. You go out, you put the signs, take a picture of it, send it to me, and there's like 10 of them, and I'll pay you X amount, right? So I am local to the market that I am in, so, and that I'm working in, and so oftentimes that will give me the opportunity to just drive out there, look at the area, and get some boots on the ground in that area, and I'll put up my signs, or have a partner that'll go and do it or something like that. So that's what I do. I've heard some people like actually get Uber drivers or something, and yeah, so I don't know how that all works, but I definitely know that there's lots of workarounds for that. I think you could even like Google, like boots on the ground companies. I think that there's like actual companies. I saw one in one market. I forget which market it was, but it was like just a group of college kids that all they would do is just like go out and put bandit signs or take pictures of properties or stuff like that for real estate investors. And so, yeah, so Hope that helps. Let's see. My market is South Carolina. Awesome. Very good. I hear that's a poppin' market. Do you like that? Do you like that market? Is it doing well for you? Let's see. Next question is, what's your language like, and does it go in special provisions on the OG contract to inform the seller you will be listing on the MLS? Yeah, so we do it in two different ways. So the very first thing is we do have a clause in our purchase agreement that says that we have the permission to market the property on the MLS, on Facebook Marketplace, on any and every platform that we decide to put it on, shop it to our retail partners, shop it to our investor partners, and so that is in the original purchase agreement. And then the other thing that we do is, depending on what market you're in, depending on the title company, it just depends on what listing service you use. But sometimes those listing services require that you have an attorney in fact, which is sort of like a power of attorney light. So an attorney in fact that's written up in this way will give you permission to list the property and accept offers on the owner's behalf. So you're acting as the owner. So it's not representation, it's just actually an attorney in fact. And the way that we use the language is we don't call it an attorney in fact when we present it to the seller. We actually say, this is a document that our attorney likes for us to have, just to make sure that that everything is clean and clear and done to the letter of the law. We like to be very transparent. And so in the event that we need to shop this around or present it to an investor partner or a retail partner, we like to have this document signed. And the title of the document is Authorization to List and Sign Offers, I believe, is the full title of the document. So we don't call it an attorney in fact, because that kind of freaks people out. Like anytime you start talking about attorney in fact, power of attorney, that kind of thing, it freaks people out. So we just explain this is what the document is for, and this is the language that we use. And usually we don't have any problems with that whatsoever. So hope that helps. Let's see, what other questions do you guys have? These are some really good questions, some good dispo stuff. Let's see, I'm going to go back in the chat and see if there's anything else. Yeah, so, if there's anything that I could leave you with, it would be just make sure that you are being as diligent with your dispo process as you are with your acquisitions process. I know a lot of people put a lot of time, a lot of energy into, perfect follow-up cadences for acquisitions. And, I'm going to send a piece of mail and then I'm going to follow up with a text message and follow up with a cold call and all this other stuff. And we're going to do that this many times and this many weeks. And it's beautiful. And then when we get to the dispo process, it's like, okay, we're just going to post it and hope. So I like to make sure that we have a very clear cadence for that as well. So again, we go over that buyer hierarchy from the most likely buyers that are neighbors all the way to the least likely buyers, which is just going to be the open market. And we go through each one of those phases of buyers before we actually post it on the MLS, or list it on the MLS rather. And then we're diligent with every single inquiry that comes in. Like if someone will call in and say, hey, can you tell me about the restrictions on this? Well, you can pretty much bet after we give them the restrictions, if they say, okay, I'm going to go check it out, we're going to be following up with them. Hey, did you get a chance to go out and take a look at it? Do you have any questions? Would you like to make an offer? This is just a reminder that we're taking highest and best offers. We're looking at making a decision in the next week. That way we can get this moving and sold. And so try to create some sense of urgency. Another tip is we also like to get as many people on the property as possible. So anytime someone calls in to ask any type of question, we always send them the pin, the Google Map pin, and say, so when do you think you'll get a chance to go and take a look at it? Did you get a chance to look at the property? If they get their feet on the dirt there's a much higher likelihood that they're going to buy the property, or that they're going to at least put an offer in on the property. So that kind of separates the tire kickers from the serious buyers. That if someone lives in the area and they're going to go out and take the time to actually drive by or walk the property, then they're probably a serious buyer. But there's a lot of tire kickers out there that'll just on Facebook Marketplace. If you ever posted an ad on Facebook or posted anything on Facebook Marketplace and then boosted it, I know you know what I'm talking about whenever I say you'll get inundated with, "Hi, is this still available? Hi, is this still available?" That's because there's just that quick little button that they can click and it'll just send you that message. And so what I do with that to separate the true buyers from the tire kickers is I actually will drive them to a call, and I'll say, "Yes, it's still available. If you have any questions, please call my sales manager at this phone number, and she'll be able to answer all of your questions." And so, that stops the conversation of like having them ask me a ton of information and just not really serious, right? Because they're just sitting there texting. But if they pick up the phone and call, that's a higher likelihood that they're a serious buyer, or at least they're very interested in the property, and then it escalates that way. So the next thing we'll do is we'll try to get them to go out to the property by sending them a map, pen, that kind of stuff. All right, next question. Will there be a replay of this? Actually, there will not be a replay of this, but I will be releasing this as sort of like a video on my YouTube channel. So I'll go ahead and put in the comments the YouTube channel link. But you can always go to onlylandfans.com. All of my socials are tagged there. And sign up, subscribe to my YouTube channel so you can get notification for whenever we finally do drop this as a video. And all of my replays live there. So any of the lives that I do, all of my interviews, things like that, that will be on my YouTube channel. So just be sure that you subscribe so you can get the notification and enjoy that replay. And also let me know, like, if you have any questions in the comments. If you're watching something, you're like, "What do you mean by this?" or "What's the best way to go about doing this?" or "How do you do it?" Please feel free to pop that in the comments on the video. I'm very active in there, and I would love to answer any questions that you have. So, all right. So it looks like those are all the questions for now. Yes, please. Thank you so much. You're welcome. Thank you guys for watching. This has been fun to just kind of jam on some dispo a little bit. If you have any questions, follow-up stuff, please feel free to pop in the chat on the YouTube replay of this. And then also just a really quick plug that I'm going to be interviewing on the Only Land Fans podcast, just Josiah Runco, tomorrow, Thursday, 6 p.m. Central Time. So if you want to grab that registration link, that's olfmeetup.com. If you want to join us live on the Zoom call, ask some questions there. We can get those questions answered live, or you can just live stream it on the Facebook group, the Only Land Fans Facebook group. Whatever you want to do, all of that information is at onlylandfans.com. If you want to send me an email, my email is on there as well. Submit that form, onlylandfans.com. It'll get to me, and then we can jam out about whatever you'd like to. So, all right, thanks so much, guys, for following and watching. It's been really fun. Hope you have a good week. We will see you tomorrow on the Only Land Fans podcast with Josiah Runco. All right, catch you guys later. Bye-bye.